Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Mind Builder Podcast. I'm Leo here with Amer. Amer, say hello.
Hey, how are you guys?
Guys, I want to share some kind of fun news with you. I just got an email this week from iTunes regarding our podcast, and they let us know that we're getting incredible download numbers and subscriptions for a new podcast without any paid advertising. So I just wanted to thank you guys for all the support. But I did want to say that I do need you guys to continue. Please continue to post on Instagram, tag us. I need you to tag Amer the Hammer, the real Leo MC on all of your Instagram stories, posts, spread the word, join the Facebook group. You can find it at...
Just search the Mind Builder on Facebook and you'll find it.
Awesome. So again, thanks everybody, and continue to spread the message. I guess let's just jump into the topic this week. I guess let's talk about sadness. Sadness, pain, grief, struggle. I think it's something that we all deal with, and I don't know if it's just the way we've been taught to grow up, but we hide it. It's like we're ashamed of pain, especially as a man. My whole life it's don't cry, don't show emotion. If I cry in front of someone, if I cried in front of you, you'd make fun of me.
Well, that's a perception that you'd be made fun of for.
But
where does it come from? It comes from passed down ideologies and beliefs and media, especially movies and all these sorts of things that are taught that like an alpha doesn't show emotions, or an alpha doesn't even feel emotions. But I think it's the total opposite. I think an alpha male feels the emotion. They may not show it always, but they definitely feel it. They're not suppressing it. You know, it's the ability to do that. And I think that's the most in touch you'll ever be with in terms of being a human being. And I think this comes at such a great time to talk about this, because of, obviously we know Kobe Bryant had died, and I'm not a basketball fan. I never have been, but I've always been a huge Kobe Bryant fan. I know you're a fan of him as a basketball player, at least.
100%. 20 years ago, I was just a white kid from Scarborough who didn't follow basketball at all, and he was the one who got me, him and a buddy of mine, and they got me into it. He was just very like-minded. I liked everything about him, and I agree, it's been a tragic week, to say the least.
Yeah. I've always loved what he stood for, and I watch all his videos, and I use that as like a mentoring type of relationship. You know, obviously I don't know him, he doesn't know me, or didn't, past tense. But I have always watched and looked up to him and tried to emulate a lot of his beliefs, because obviously it works. And I think, anyways, beyond that, I think when we look at the state, I've never seen the world like this before. Probably the last time the world was like this was when Princess Diana died, where the world stopped.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
The problem is we didn't see that, or it's not a problem, but it's the issue is we didn't see that because there was no social media when Princess Diana died.
Yes. So the effect, she is a very global and was a well-known icon, but you're right. I don't think the message would have got, this blew up instantly. It was super fast.
For a number of reasons.
Yeah. Age. He's American. He's a global icon. Daughter, father.
Everyone can relate to it.
Just recently retired, so he's still fresh. He's not like a 70-year-old kind of legend who's... Yeah, we were expecting.
Still fresh out of the game.
Yeah.
But what is nice to always look at things in life is to look at the good that does derive from the bad, or the tragedy that happens. And if you look at what has come from this, and what I've witnessed from this, is people coming together more than I've ever seen them come together. And I think it takes tragedy for human beings to come together, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But it makes you realize that when we feel vulnerable, when we feel hurt, when we feel lost, when we feel pain, what do we look to? We look to others. We look to others for support. We look to others for guidance. So at the end of it all, all this superficial world that we've created and manufactured means nothing. What really means everything is our love for one another, is our relationship with each other, is our connection to each other, which I believe is the most strong bond to anything in the world, despite your background, your ethnicity, your culture, your religion, your gender, your age. All these things don't even matter. What matters is that we're human beings, and I think as a result of being a human being, we can connect with one another because we're intrinsically wired the same way, which is to feel. We feel the pain of ourselves. We feel the pain of others. We can empathize for the pain of someone else.
Now that you bring all that up, this is a little bit off topic, but why, we're both from different backgrounds, different religions, different upbringings, but why do you think it is that we all respect death so much? Like, I don't know how it is in your family, but I know for us, we have the common saying is like, when I see someone at a funeral, it's like, I always see you either at a wedding or a funeral. Like, we never have the time to meet people other than that. When it's a death, like, I have enough time all of a sudden to find the time to go to that funeral. Why do we respect it so much? Why does everyone respect death so much?
Well, I think it's, unfortunately, I think when we look at death, we look at these things, it's more of a reminder to ourselves, and that it's reality. This is the reality of life.
Yeah,
this is
not true.
This is your destiny. And I think that's, unfortunately, people, we all can relate to it. As much as we try to mask it and hide the fact that it is a reality and one day we are going to have to deal with it, I think to a degree we're always like putting it in the back of our mind, like, that can't happen to me.
Yeah.
That can't, and that's why the Kobe Bryant thing is so big, because, like, man, he had plans for the next day.
Yeah.
He was probably going to go to dinner. He had plans to go to somewhere,
big
booked a
meeting,
vacation, whatever it may be,
movies,
projects,
yeah.
And it ends
Invincible.
for everyone.
Like, he was, if you're going to say someone was like
Top of the game.
Yeah, like cheat death, like, he's there.
Yeah.
Like, not
mindset,
at this age.
he had the mindset, he had the strength,
killer.
he had the talent, whatever.
Everything you need, like the money to have excellent health.
We can't run from it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter where you come from. It can happen to anyone. I think it's a big reality check, and I think it should be a great reminder to us as to why we waste so much time with things that don't matter.
I know.
Why we waste so much time with people and give so much power to people and things that really have no real significance in our lives. Like, you're going to stress over something that somebody said to you that you don't know. For example, you gave that person something that you'll never gain back. You'll make money again. You could steal money. You can borrow money. You can't steal time. You can't borrow time. You can't regain time. You can't win it back. You can't buy it. So you're giving the most finite thing that we own. The only thing that we really have is our time, and when that's up, it's over. And you're giving that by even thinking about people that don't matter rather than giving it to the people that do matter. And I think that's the biggest reminder, and that's what wakes us up when things like this happen, these tragedies, where we think to ourselves, like, wow, what have I been doing? Like, I laid in bed all day yesterday, like, I felt shitty about myself all day.
Yeah, you call yourself out on your bullshit, because now you're comparing your bullshit to this, and you're like, what the fuck am I complaining about? Like, it's snowing a little bit. I had to walk to work in the cold. This family's there's nine people. I don't know how many families it was destroyed. Like, my life is amazing compared to that. But one thing I struggled personally with is, like you said, I was a fan of his. So I've quote unquote like loved his career and loved him as a person and as an athlete. So like, he died, but like, I followed him. I felt like I knew him and his story. And then it's like everybody kind of hops on the bandwagon. Like now,
you know how much his followers went up?
Yeah, in death, his followers, and so many people are like want those sound bites. Like players maybe that didn't like him now all of a sudden want to go on the radio and be like, man, like he was because they just want their like 10 minutes of fame. And it pisses me off. It's like a hard. I want to grieve but like alone. Like I don't want those people influencing my, I guess, grief cycle, because I'm like, that's all bullshit. 7 days from now, 10 days from now,
you're forgotten about.
Everyone's gonna leave Kobe Bryant in the dust. His family's got to deal with it, and once there's no more money or whatever you want to call it to be made, they're gone. The leeches. Like, how long do you think this is gonna? Like, this is a big one. I've never seen anything last this long in my lifetime. Like, this is a long cycle of a grieving process, like, or a public grieving process. But eventually, the radio and the TV is going to go back to talking about the weather and nonsense. How long do you think this lasts? Like, everyone's motivated. I guarantee you all week everyone's been working out harder, treating their kids better, respecting their parents more, saying hello and I love you to their husband, to their wife, to their partner. Like, but it doesn't last. It's bullshit. We're lying to her. It's just another bullshit fucking lie. We're just pretending. Oh, Kobe Bryant influenced me. Like, no, it didn't. Did you change? Are people changing?
I think you can influence change.
To a certain degree.
Well, it's up to the...
Or to the most ever.
It's up to us. Yeah. We want to have... No one's going to change. Things can temporarily motivate you, because that's what... This is motivation. It's just sparked something within you to alter. But we already know what maintains change within us is habits. So, like, it's up to a person to make conscious effort to wire themselves a certain way to stay a certain way.
That's actually a good point. So to tie it back to sadness, we are sad. Something happens like a death or loss of a job or whatever. We are sad. There must be a reason for us to be sad. Maybe this sadness can spark the thing that we need, like the drive or the momentum to get us started. Maybe we don't change fully, but we do start to create habits out of this. Maybe not everyone, but maybe.
Well, I think that if we look at human emotions and human psyche, you have to feel pain, or else we wouldn't have pain within us.
Yeah,
the
there's
ability
a reason.
to feel pain.
Yeah.
So the fact that we can feel pain, there becomes an importance to actually feeling it. So if it wasn't important, you shouldn't be able to feel it.
We wouldn't have it in our DNA, in our
so
program.
The fact that we have it within us means that there is something to gain from it. I think too often in life we're so fixated on the bad of things, which, everything is relative and everything's subjective to our own opinion of good or bad. Like your opinion of something bad is not my opinion of bad.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's our perception and our perspective on how we view things. So we could look at things in our life and say, well, that's really, that's the worst thing that happened to me. But like a successful person and a person that's of a growth mindset is going to take the good from the bad and continuously grow, and I had someone close to me, a coworker, a client, whatever you want to call it. And, they went through this state in their life where their dad died, and then a few weeks later, the sister had killed herself because the dad died. And I didn't really have any answers for her. There was nothing I could really say to her, but her exact words were, what am I supposed to gain from this? And I said, well, you have to look at the positive in every negative, and there's a silver lining in everything. And I believe that this is going to teach you a lesson, because that's all we can take from things. We can't turn back time. We can't change things that are out of our realm of control. But what I believe this is doing for you is this is teaching you how to gain more value out of the relationships you have today. Meaning, like, did you ever tell your dad or your sister you love them? Did you spend quality time with them? Like, why do you want people to live forever? Why do you want to live forever? I mean, they live for 100 years, but you could have a more meaningful relationship in 5 years if you actually put effort into it. And I think we don't put effort into relationships. Therefore, who cares if someone lives 100 years? What's more important is that the value and the meaning you had within the shorter period of time is of greater substance. So like telling people you love them, taking care of them, showing them, how much they mean to you. These things are more important than having someone live 100 years.
So then, that's a very true point. Why do we do this? Why is it so common to hear everybody? Because I think we all relate to sadness because we've all experienced it. I don't think anybody...
Because we're guilty. When people die, we're guilty of not showing enough love.
Why don't we?
We withhold.
What's withholding us? Is it our ego? Is it?
It's our egos.
Showing weakness? Do we perceive it as weakness? Me telling you, I love you. Thank you for being a good friend. Thank you, son.
Well, ego's a simple way to mask it, the word, or to the definition of what it actually is. It's ingrained behavior, because if you were taught from a young age that it's okay to show love, like, where you see it in families, like they'll show it in the kids or to the animals. Like everyone's like petting the dog because they're too hard to tell each other, like, I love you. So like they'll show it in the kids, like they'll show the kids all the love because we're too tough to show love to each other. So it's like, oh, when I come over, I'm going to talk to your kid, hug him, do all this stuff.
To show you that I care about you. That's my signal.
Yeah, it's like, hey man,
it's the least I can do.
Like, fuck you, but because we're too tough, we're too alpha, or we're too embarrassed, because as adults we become...
Embarrassed, that's a good one, I think. Guilt, shame, embarrassment.
Yeah, judgment, fear of judgment.
And then pride. Like, then there's the, anger, pride.
So, like, and you see it in families, like, they'll show it... I see, like, the two family members, like, have never hugged each other.
Yes.
Or never told each other they love them, but, like, they're both like, ooh, to the kid, hugging the kid and playing with the kid. And
showing that.
So, which means we have it in us. So there's a reason why we hide it. And it's the biggest one, I think, if we look at all of our emotions, is the fear of rejection. And that's what we've been taught at a very young age, is we fear rejection. We fear someone saying no, or somebody not approving of us.
That's probably our biggest fear. That's one common theme I'm learning everywhere I go, everyone I speak with, every class I take. is we have this fear, and it's the biggest block in our life. I don't know why. I hear it referred to as like a test mentality. Like we're always going into our tests so fearful of failing that we can't even think when we're in that examination. And then as soon as you leave it, it's like something comes over you, you release, and then all of a sudden all the answers start to flow into your head. You had a mental block because of fear.
A lot of it's how we were raised, right? And I think we've been raised in a way to be socially correct. Exactly. And politically correct. Yes. Does that mean we're emotionally correct?
No.
Yeah. So we're trying to fit human beings into a culture we've cultivated. Mm-hmm. So humans have cultivated this culture over time through evolution that, women have to sit a certain way and men have to act a certain way, and women, shouldn't be this way, but men should be that way. So we've created all these things, and around that comes judgment, and around that comes rejection and validation and approval, and all these words that create these confines in our brain of like, I can't go there because if I cross this line, I fear the consequence of the unknown. I fear what could potentially happen to me, which is like being laughed at, being isolated, mocked, being having no friends, or having never being picked. That's so it's things that we've been taught, and I think our parents from a young age instilled these behaviors within us and these beliefs within us, because everything comes down to belief systems. Right? What you believe is going to be true. Like if you believe that you are obese, you're going to become obese because everything you do is going to be conducive to being an obese person, because that's your belief system. So your actions and your thoughts are conducive to that. Like we spark thoughts through belief systems. Which is why if you want to change something, you need to retrain and change your belief system before anything. Like I don't need you to figure out a diet plan. I don't need to give you a diet plan if your goal is fat loss. I need to get your belief systems correct, because internally your structure is lacking. So if you can have the best diet in the world, there's no such thing as the best diet in the world. Especially if you believe you're meant to be obese. Like we got to rewire that, because you start acting, thinking, behaving all in a manner conducive to an obese person or happy person.
Back to your obese habits. You just keep reverting back. As soon as you hit some obstacle, you revert back to what's easiest. So this is another thing that we talk a lot about, is the belief systems change over time. Like society changes, we get influenced. And we've mentioned this before personally, is like when we were growing up, society was different. Like now with the empowerment movement and just the changes overall in society, everyone's a little bit more welcoming and open arms. We still have a long ways to go, but when we were growing up, we as children of immigrants, like we felt there was a difference. Like we weren't here's the kids, thing, right?
My mom, when she was growing up, the teachers would beat them.
Yes, yeah.
When I was growing up, my parents would beat us.
And now it's like no one gets beaten. Yeah, no one can touch a child.
So like there's less and less degrees of separation.
So it's moving, but that's only 3 generations that you were mentioning. Like time is much longer than that. There's thousands of generations. So we're saying back when we were growing up, a guy or a boy in school, we couldn't cry. Like you had to be tough. If you cried, that's it. You'll be isolated. No guys will be friends with you. Do you think there was actually a point in time maybe where men were open to crying? Like 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago? Because I think that's where we're going. People want to see men show emotion now. That's like a very popular or trigger term, is an emotional man. Like can he show his emotion? Are you always holding it?
Yes, because the cycle of life always comes back to what is right.
What is what was normal?
No,
quote unquote normal.
What's natural? What's real? Yeah,
natural. That's a better
organic.
word. Yeah.
So we move so far away from something that we realize it's not the answer. Like
so that's what I'm saying.
Being that tough alpha male is not cool anymore. Like you won't even see people bully people online anymore. Yeah. Like 5 years ago, people would bully people online.
Yeah, so that's another word.
But now, if someone writes something negative on my page, 1,000 people will attack them.
But, okay, so whatever. That's for another episode. I actually want to do one on bullying because it's something that pisses me off and I care about. But, yeah, so do you think it was natural then or was there a point in time? Like, I guess we can't know, but are we going back there because it was natural? Like, men have been suppressing this emotion of sadness for so long? And maybe that was a cause.
But what makes men any different than women in terms of feeling emotion?
No, that's what I'm saying. There's nothing. So why were men suppressing it?
Yeah, that's just social.
Exactly. So maybe there was a time in history where it didn't matter. But anyways, that kind of takes me to my next point is, how do we adapt? That's the key to everything, is adapting. Right? It's not the strongest people that survive. Who says that? It's not the strongest.
Darwin.
It's not the strongest, but the most adaptable that survive. It's his theory of
so it's not intelligence. You're not going to be successful because of your intelligence. You're not going to be successful because of your ability. You're going to be successful because of your adaptability, your ability to adapt
to weather, to circumstances.
To anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. Like if you're cold, you go outside, your body warms itself up. This is true for physiology. This is true for the physicalities. This is true for your emotional states as well. Mm-hmm. When you're imposed with so much pain at once, too much of a stressor at once, your body, your mind, your physiology can't handle it, you could potentially go into a state of shock. You go to a state of shock to quarantine that feeling of being overly exposed to too much stress at once.
Yeah, so if you find out that your partner or your parent or your child has passed away, your body's natural reaction is to...
First, shock.
So then you're not overwhelmed
by
the amount of pain.
Well, because what can happen in that state? A heart attack, something very severe.
Car accident if you're driving.
Well, it's just too much blood. It's too much blood pressure. It's too much of these things all at once. Like the same reason why you faint is so that your body's horizontal, so that blood flows even, and there's no isolated blood flow to any single body part when you're under a great deal of stress. So like if I'm deadlifting, all the blood is going to my leg or going to my head. That's dangerous, therefore your body passes you out. So your horizontal blood flows evenly. This is adaptation at its finest. And this is true for every part of you being a human being, whether you realize it or not. You go to the gym, get stronger, you adapt by building a bit more muscle to tolerate and withstand the imposed demand of challenging the muscle.
So if we feel, or if we get this news, you lost your job, someone passed away, someone broke up with you, something super sad, something super painful, our first bodily reaction is to go into shock. Time goes by now we're able to process, maybe we're sitting at home. Now we can digest the news. Now we're going to deny it. No, this isn't happening. No, she didn't cheat on me. No, the doctor was wrong. The diagnosis was incorrect. There's no way I can. It's
an overexposure. It's an oversaturation of stress, and that's it. And we first have to process that, and that could take, that takes different times in varying degrees to different people. And that's the beauty of adaptation, is everything is different for everyone. There's no one size fits all. Yeah. So it might take you 3 weeks. And that depends on your current tolerance. Like, have you lost somebody before? Are you familiar with this feeling?
Yeah, or is it back to back?
It's all about something. Adaptation is also about being what you're familiar with.
Yes.
So your muscle's not familiar with lifting that much weight. You may actually not get stronger because you exposed it to a bit too much. Like, that's why micro progression, and I use muscle because I think we can all relate to it. But if you go to the gym and do 5 more pounds than you've ever done, you will get strong. You'll feel pain, but you'll get stronger. If you go to the gym and attempt to do 1,000 more pounds than you've ever done in a single workout, that's called overtraining. As a result, you'll regress. There's no adaptation to improve. There may be an adaptation to actually get weaker because you've done so much damage, and your body wants to stop you from doing things like that because it's a bit too much. And the same thing happens with your emotional state. So we need to adjust ourselves. Unfortunately, we can't prepare ourselves for the tragedies of life. But maybe what we should be doing is being a bit more in touch with being a human being and recognizing the things that actually are part of being a human being. Like, I think we're so delusional, and we're so naive and so ignorant to the realities of life because we don't want to believe them, because we've also manufactured a fake world around us that makes us hide and run away from our problems, and makes us hide and run away from things, because now I don't have to deal with pain in my life. I can just go seek pleasure.
Yeah, so you get hit with this sadness, and what's your first reaction?
Pleasure.
Try and remove the sadness. Mask it.
Get rid of it. We're hedonistic by nature. We seek pleasure and we avoid pain. That's what human beings...
Instead of going through it, growing...
But here's the difference. 1,000 years ago, where would we escape to have pleasure? We wouldn't.
There's no escape.
So what we got terrible at as human beings is confronting pain, facing pain, embracing pain, and and being able to overcome it.
Yeah, getting a thicker layer of skin, like another layer. Now I'm able to withstand that pain.
So what do you need in order to withstand that pain? You need conscious awareness, control of your mindset. And this is what people lack. They lack control of their mind, so they go into autopilot mode and say, well, my brain wants X, let me get X. My brain wants pleasure, let me get pleasure. Instead of saying, whoa, I'm in charge here. I'm in the driver's seat. This is what I need to do. Mm-hmm. And this comes from having strong core values, having strong beliefs, but more than anything, having a very strong amount of self-awareness in your life to recognize when you're doing something right, when you're doing something wrong, what you're trying to do. And this is the ability to look at yourself introspectively and look at your brain's natural decision-making and then make decisions from the driver's seat. So that's what we do as human beings, and before anything, like, I need you to have some self-awareness before we can become successful. Before we could change anything about you, I need you to have self-awareness. If you can't, like, the number one step in Alcoholics Anonymous is like, hi, my name is Amer, and I'm an alcoholic. Because we need you to recognize this. Without the recognition of saying and truly believing it and admitting that you're an alcoholic, we can't get you better. Mm-hmm. Because you're never going to be able to overcome this disease and this addiction until you can honestly and truly face it. So it's really about embracing pain, facing pain, and then overcoming it. You know, when I used to wrestle, I had a wrestling coach, and he would always say this. Like, he said it, you know, a few times I've heard it, but it was, first of all, wrestling is all about embracing the grind. That's like the famous, you know, wrestling saying is
motto,
embrace the grind, because it's like, and they say the wrestlers make the toughest people. You know, once you can wrestle, you can do anything in life, because it's so emotionally challenging. That's the beauty of wrestling. That's why I like wrestling, because I have to focus on wrestling. I can't be thinking about what I'm doing in other areas of my life, because it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
So I have to be so emotionally engaged, and that's the beauty of it. But so when you're looking at, you know, like wrestling, it's embracing the grind because it's so tough. So it's a constantly, willingly, voluntarily exposing yourself to the demand of just being beaten down. And as a result of that, you're going to get stronger. And my wrestling coach would say, don't look for the exit, look for the answer. And what he meant by that is, like, stop looking for the exit door, the easy way out. Mm-hmm. Look, there's an answer there.
Yeah, the parachute. Don't just jump out.
If you look, you will find. And we don't do enough of that in life. We don't take time to actually look for the answer. We're always looking for the exit. We're always looking for that trap door. How do we get out? Like, the minute it becomes uncomfortable, right away, and I would notice this in wrestling, my natural instinct is like, turn over, get pinned,
submit, yeah,
you
tap.
And let's put myself out of this misery.
Yeah, start over. Fuck it.
Yeah, take the loss.
Yeah, take the loss.
The loss is more comfortable than dealing with the pain. So I'm going to put myself in a position to just take this loss. That's the natural thing that a human being needs to do. Now, what a strong human being does is embrace it. Like, let me deal with this pain, because I know that if I face the pain long enough and I expose myself to the pain long enough, as a result of that, the benefit and the consequence of it is growth. Mm-hmm. So on the other side of that pain is reward. On the other side of that pain is growth. All I need to do as a human being is make the conscious decision and conscious effort to embrace it, to allow myself to feel it, to experience it, and then I can overcome it. So just because you've gone through things in life doesn't mean you went through them. Doesn't mean just because you got through it doesn't mean you went through it. Right? And I say this to people, it's like, just because you went through a breakup doesn't mean you actually experienced the growth of a breakup. Just because you lost somebody in your life doesn't mean you experienced the growth of it. Because we can just jump from relationship to relationship.
How many people do?
Being the same person in every relationship.
No change.
Every relationship I've ever had, it becomes harder and harder for me to meet somebody. And the reason why is because I grow so much every time I give myself the chance to grow. Like, I can't date someone right away. If you date someone right away, that's called a rebound. But that's you not allowing your emotional state to experience pain. And you just want to mask it by
skipping steps.
Exactly.
You
want to bypass.
Jumping ahead.
So as a result of that, you don't get the benefit.
Yeah. You can't date right away because now you expect more. There's another level that you expect in return from that partner. You're not looking for that same piece of shit that you were with the last time.
Yeah.
You expect more. You know you deserve more, and you know what you're looking for.
I know what I don't want.
Yeah.
I know what won't work.
Yeah.
Right? And so it becomes harder to date. But what I say to people is, while it becomes harder to date, the more I date, the more of a chance it's going to last.
Yeah, the better of a person you're with.
Yes, because I know that there were 100 things that weren't good that I was naive to. Well, after dating the first girl, I knocked off 30.
Yeah.
After dating the second girl, I knocked off another 30. Now, after dating the third girl, I knocked off 10. And then, you're getting closer and closer to what you do want. You're getting closer and closer to your human potential, if it's in a physical sport that you're doing. So, by constantly exposing yourself and dealing with pains of life, you're constantly allowing yourself to grow. So, this is about growth.
So then, again, we all experience sadness. Everyone listening right now has either gone through or is going through something right now that it's extremely hard and sad on them, and we're talking about having that shock at the beginning and then accepting it and realizing, like, I have this pain and I have to grow from it. I'm not going to look for the easy way out. I'm not going to go for the exit. I'm going to take this pain and I'm going to swallow it. I'm going to digest it. I'm going to get better from it. Then comes, which we've probably had an experience too, is the anger. You have this anger and you look for the people to blame. This happened because of you. I got sick because of this.
But I think that's still denial. So anger is actually one of the most beautiful emotions. And I think I'm very guilty of making myself angry because for every emotion, there's an action related to it, right? So what is the action related to the emotion of anger? It's destruction, overcoming challenge. So sometimes I'll make myself angry, and we know athletes do this, because I know that's going to help fuel me to overcome challenge, because there are physiological responses related to experiencing anger, such as adrenaline, such as insulin, that make me fired up. Like when there's like a conflict, you may feel this feeling inside of you, like you're bottled up and you're ready to go, you're ready to fight, that fight or flight. So we experience anger because now we're ready to overcome. We're ready to overcome challenge. We're ready to move forward. We're ready to grow. We're ready, and that's why, like, we know this, breakups. Like, think about the best music in the world is created after breakups. The best athletes or the best bodybuilders, they say, are that have gone through a breakup, because this fuels you and gives you the sense of purpose and focus like no other. So guess what happens if you don't expose yourself to the pains of life and embrace it, is you don't get to experience the benefits of it as well, which is experiencing anger. Anger is not a bad thing. Anger is a bad thing when you're going and killing people because you're angry. But learning how to be consciously aware and put this emotion to use. It's you know what it is? It's a strong man or a strong woman, an alpha man or an alpha woman, we'll call it, is the ability to navigate your emotions and put them toward the right things. Because while it was socially acceptable 1,000 years ago to kill you, and there were no consequences, no jail, there's none of these things, it's not socially acceptable to do that now, right? And that's fine. That's just the world we live in today.
But now you're still angry. So now what?
So what do? We suppress. And as a result of suppressing things, we start to numb ourselves over the course of time, because we've been taught that it's not acceptable to have feeling toward anything as a man. To be a strong man, you shouldn't feel anything. But that's a misconception, and it's been misconstrued. It's not that it's not acceptable to feel anything. It's not acceptable to show it. That's what should have been said. But we've been taught that we shouldn't feel anything. Or as a result of not being able to show it, because that's what expression is. So we're not allowed to express ourselves, so we just depress it as a result.
So from the sadness, then, we should be entering a phase of depression, loneliness, discomfort, maybe wanting to be alone, not around friends, wanting to just deal and process the pain that we're going through. Maybe think of that loved one or remember your life and kind of just go through that process and not enjoy the sadness, but embrace it. Don't just let time go by, or don't just forget it. If someone dies, how are you supposed to deal with it? Are you supposed to remember them? Are you supposed to think about them? Because oftentimes friends will just tell you, don't worry, just move on. Like, you didn't need her.
Well, I
you
think
loved her.
There's a few reasons why you feel this depression too. It's an overload of emotions, and as a result of being your brain's scattered as well.
Confused. It's foggy.
So we need to shut it all down, and it's like a reset.
Simplify.
Depress yourself. Don't express, because you're going to express, you're going to be mad at people, you're going to resent,
blame, say things you didn't mean.
Too many things going on. So it's better to depress. This is, I believe this is a social. These 7 steps of anger or of loss is socially created over time.
Yeah.
You know, it's not biologically. We're not speaking biologically.
No.
So I think because now I have the inability to be angry because that's not socially acceptable. Yeah. I can't express anger. As a result, the opposite of expression is depression.
Yes.
So as a result of me not being able to express my anger in the world, I have to now depress this and numb myself. Is this the right way? I don't think so. We should be able to express it. Why do you think we have break rooms, people break things, all these sorts of things, and people are loving it now? Because that's natural for a human being. We're giving people an outlet to be humans for 5 minutes at a time of their life.
Yeah, and then go back to...
But like, we should be a human for 24 hours of the day, every day of our lives. If we just lived a bit closer to being authentic, to being a human being, we'd be a lot happier. We'd be a lot more fulfilled. We'd stop engaging in low-level behavior, low-level consciousness behavior. We'd stop seeking pleasure all the time from places we shouldn't be seeking it from. And we'd have more meaningful relationships with the people that do matter because we're getting the things that we do need biologically, physiologically, chemically from the right places. But instead, we're doing the complete opposite.
Yeah, low level, that's a good word. We're full of low level actions and daily habits. It's a good way of putting it. Low level, like it's just... You're not going to achieve anything with these low level ideas and low level habits that we're on a day-to-day basis. But so then how do you come out of this? You've been sad. Someone's passed away. It takes time. 4 weeks, 4 months, 8 months, 4 years, whatever. What's the end? Kobe dies. How do we come back up? Do we? Do you ever become the person that you were before? Do you ever you lose a child? Like, do you ever become that carefree person? Or are you a new person? Do you
become a new
yourself?
person? That's adaptation.
So there's construction going on. You're reconstructing. You're rebuilding.
You know, one of the most ugly things in life is transformation. Like, if you build houses.
Yeah.
I go into your house while you're building. It's the ugliest fucking thing in the world.
Oh yeah, during the construction. Yeah.
During the transformation.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's scattered. So if you're building a house for me, I say, no, I want to come look halfway through.
No, I don't want you to. No. I don't want you to, because all you're going to do is criticize.
When I was building my gym, I didn't want anyone to see it because they don't understand the vision, the end result.
Yeah, the dumbbells look better than the walls do, and they're like, that doesn't make sense. Why do you have so much invested in dumbbells?
Literally, when I was building, people were saying, no, you're going to keep the walls like this?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
You're going to keep them rugged and bare. And now everyone says to me, wow, these walls are beautiful.
Yeah,
because it's offset and contrasted by the right things.
Total package. Yeah.
But that was part of the transformation process. I stopped letting people come in.
I hate it. I don't want customers.
I literally had we share space with a massage therapist, a friend of mine, and he came in and he was fuming. He was pissed off because, like, what the fuck is all of this? Like, I thought he's like, there's no fucking light switches. Like, do I have to put my own light switches? I'm like, brother,
they're not there yet. Yeah.
Just relax. That's why I didn't want you coming. Yeah. Then after, he's like, wow, this
Bluetooth.
is great.
Should have told him.
So, but this is life, the transformation process. When you're going through the worst times in your life and you actually embrace it, it's actually a really messy process. And it actually is very hurtful, and it's actually it's ugly. It's a very ugly process. But, like, go through it. And you know what? When you come out on the other side, you come out better. The house looks better. The person is better.
Finished product.
Because you know who you come out on the other side of that pain in life? You come out as a better person, not a worse person. When you don't allow yourself to embrace those pains and you mask it and you just engage in other activity, you know what happens? You come out a worse person. You become a bitter. You become resentful, spiteful, angry. So this is part of growth.
Yeah, full of blame.
Allow yourself to go through things. Like, just embrace it. Feel the pain. What are you so scared of pain for in your life?
I think that's the best advice, is feel the pain. That's what you should do, is feel it. Don't avoid the pain. Don't avoid the struggles.
Look, when I work with clients and they're lifting, I work with athletes and they're lifting weight, and I say to them, like, they're getting to the point of pain and I can see it in their face, right away the instinct is like, shut off. And that's when I say to them, stay there. Look for it and stay there. Stay within that feeling of being in pain. Like, embrace it. Like, try to stay in that feeling of being in pain as long as you can. Because the longer you can stay in that space of being in pain, the more we can get out of this. But if every time that you feel the slightest bit of pain, you just shut off, like every rep you did building up to this point was a waste, because every rep building up to this point was to get to the point where you start to feel some pain, because that's where the growth is happening.
Yeah.
So let's get to that point where we're getting some growth out of you.
Who is it? Muhammad Ali's famous line? He didn't start counting reps until he felt pain.
That's how you should.
So he would do sit-ups, and people, I think a guy asked him, like, how you do 100 sit-ups? He's like, I don't know.
Because what does pain tell us? Tolerance. We've reached the threshold, the maximum threshold, and this is where it's becoming uncomfortable. This is where it's becoming foreign.
So that's where it begins.
So that's where adaptation starts. So the more I can get out of this pain, the more I can live within it, the more I'm going to get out of the adaptation. But if every time I stop when I reach that threshold, those reps that I just did, those 15 reps, are what I'm able to do. Yeah. I don't want to expose myself to what I'm able to do. I want to expose myself to what I'm not able to do. And the only way to do that is by consciously and voluntarily exposing yourself to it and forcing yourself to do it. Because the natural human in you, the biological, the chemical, the physiological human being in you says, stop there. Because your body and your mind's job is to survive.
Protect. Yeah. Keep you alive for another day. I think that's a great piece of advice. I think everybody embrace the pain. Don't run from it. That's another episode of the Mind Builder podcast. Thanks for tuning in, guys.